Thank you so much to everyone who shared their questions. So many came in, full of emojis and excitement. The day at Windsor Castle had been expected to be quiet, routine, uneventful. No public appearances, no official announcements. Yet within the castle walls, something took place that could alter the very foundations of the monarchy. A ceremony so discreet, so unprecedented, that even many insiders had no idea it had happened. At the center of it stood Kate Middleton. According to palace sources, in a private gathering away from cameras and the royal calendar, the Princess of Wales was quietly recognized in a symbolic ritual as queen. This moment, described by insiders as the most significant shift since Queen Elizabeth II's passing, was not about show or spectacle. It was about legacy. The mood in the room was solemn, deeply emotional. Prince William stood by, not merely as her husband, but as someone witnessing a passing of authority. Though there was no crown placed on her head, no formal act of parliament, the symbolism was undeniable. This was not theater. This was succession by spirit. Afterward, secrecy gripped the palace. Meetings followed and divisions surfaced among senior royals. Questions spread. Why now? Why behind closed doors? And most provocatively, was this truly Queen Elizabeth's final wish? Observers say this is not just about Catherine herself. It's about power, inheritance, and a new kind of crown, one passed on quietly, not in front of crowds. Outwardly, the monarchy looks unchanged, but behind the palace walls, the balance has already shifted. As one insider put it, the crown wasn't seized. It was gently placed on the one deemed most worthy to bear it. Now, speculation grows. Is Kate already a queen in all but name? And if so, what does the future hold? No trumpets, no balcony, no public oath. Only hushed voices, candlelit halls, and an unspoken transition that may redefine the monarchy's next chapter. It wasn't legal, but it was real. The gathering had been arranged in absolute secrecy, with only a handful of people permitted to attend: Prince William, Princess Anne, the Archbishop of Canterbury, and a select few senior royal advisors. No aides, no courtiers, no cameras. Everyone present gave their word to remain silent. At the center of the chapel stood an old oak table with a velvet box resting on top. Inside was a letter, the final personal instruction of Queen Elizabeth II, sealed before her death and entrusted solely to Princess Anne. The location had been chosen by the late Queen herself, a small, seldom-used chapel within Windsor Castle, reserved for quiet reflection and prayer. William spoke first. Those who know say his voice shook, not from fear, but from the gravity of the moment. He thanked his aunt for fulfilling the Queen's last wish, then turned to his wife. He took her hand, not only as her husband, but as her partner in the monarchy. But before we continue, we'd love for you to hit the subscribe button if you're enjoying this video. If you just did, we truly appreciate it. Now, let's get back to the main content. Anne then stepped forward and broke the seal. In a heavy, sorrowful voice, she read aloud the words written by her mother in her final months. To my family, and to those who will bear the crown after me, I write with peace in my heart and clarity for the future. Let it be known, Catherine is to be not only queen by name, but by role, by presence, and by spirit. She is to lead, to unite, and to uphold the crown when it falters. The room fell into silence, as though the castle itself was listening. No applause, no ceremony, only reverence. When the reading ended, the Archbishop stepped forward and placed a hand gently on Kate's shoulder. His words were quiet but firm. The Queen's voice has been heard, and now it rests with you. Kate didn't speak. She didn't shed a tear. She simply nodded, calm, steady, the eye of the storm. Then William reached inside his cloak and revealed a small brooch. It was Queen Elizabeth's cherished lily-of-the-valley pin, an heirloom she had worn often during pivotal royal occasions. In that moment, he pinned it to his wife's chest. It wasn't a crown, but it was something greater, a private act of passing on trust, a silent coronation of the future. Everyone present knew instantly the monarchy had changed course. Charles might still hold the crown, but Catherine now carried something far stronger, the Queen's blessing and the loyalty of the people. When the gathering ended, those present left one by one, vanishing back into silence. No photographs, no statements, only shadows and secrecy. William and Kate lingered behind, together in the dim light of the chapel for more than an hour. Two figures standing at the edge of history, fully aware that what had just unfolded would never be spoken aloud, but would echo through every royal step from that day forward. That evening, no crown touched her head, yet it was hers all the same. She hadn't fought for it, hadn't demanded it. She earned it. Years before her passing, Queen Elizabeth II quietly set plans in motion for a future she would never witness. Beneath her composed exterior and lifetime of unwavering duty, those closest to her knew she carried one unshakable conviction: the monarchy could only survive if it adapted. She had seen empires crumble, institutions lose public trust, and royal houses falter under scandal. Through it all, she stood firm, a constant in a changing world. But she also knew that when her reign ended, such stability could not simply be handed down by bloodline. It had to be deserved. So, in her final year, the Queen did something profoundly personal. Alone at her writing desk in Windsor Castle, she penned a letter, never intended for public eyes, yet bearing the weight of her deepest will. It was addressed not to her son, nor to her heirs, but to Catherine. "My dear Catherine," she began, her pen gliding in steady calligraphy, "I have not seen anyone carry the burden of responsibility with such quiet strength since I was young. You never asked for the crown, but you already bear it in spirit." This was no official proclamation, no government-drafted decree stamped with parliamentary approval. It was a private testament, a vision of the future as the Queen saw it. It carried no legal force, yet it revealed her ultimate intent. She reassured that the throne would pass to William in time. But it was Catherine, she insisted, who would safeguard the meaning of the crown itself. Grace, restraint, and endurance, these were the qualities Elizabeth saw as the foundation of the monarchy's survival. She recalled Kate's path, entering the family with humility, weathering relentless scrutiny, standing steady through storms, and never wavering in her sense of duty. "The monarchy must be loved if it is to endure," the Queen wrote, "and it will be loved through you." This was not a mere blessing. It was a charge. Elizabeth envisioned Kate's role as far greater than queen consort. She saw her as the guardian of tradition, a unifying figure, and a guiding hand for the generations to come, including the young Princess Charlotte. She portrayed the modern monarchy as delicate, warning that affection and loyalty could no longer be assumed. They had to be earned. And she declared without hesitation that Catherine had already done so. Then came the most striking passage of all. "If there is ever uncertainty, open this letter. Let it be read before family, not in parliaments or courts. Let it be known when the moment demands. I have entrusted Catherine with the spirit of this crown. She will be the anchor of our future. Signed, Elizabeth R." The letter was placed in the hands of Princess Anne, the Queen's most steadfast child. Sealed in a velvet-lined box, it remained untouched in Anne's study. She kept it hidden through her mother's funeral and even during Charles's coronation. She waited. Only when Catherine returned to public life after her illness, appearing stronger and more resolute than ever, did Anne understand that the moment had arrived. The letter was finally revealed. What had been intended to stay locked away forever began to circulate in hushed whispers through the palace, like a prophecy too heavy for daylight. This was never about changing succession. The throne would remain with Charles. But the Queen's words were designed to shape the soul of the monarchy itself, and in doing so, she left no doubt. The true crown would not be something worn, but something carried, and she had chosen Kate to carry it. The instant Anne finished reading, silence pressed down over the room. Windsor's ancient walls, which had witnessed centuries of power handed down, seemed to close tighter around those present. The implications were vast, deeply personal, and impossible to ignore. Though King Charles III remained composed, his body betrayed him. His jaw tensed, his fingers drummed faintly against the armrest, and those closest noted that he blinked far more than usual, a small habit that revealed strain. He didn't argue. He didn't object. But his silence told its own story. For his entire life, his mother had been his guide and example. To hear her final words so openly favor Catherine as the enduring future of the monarchy beyond even him was a wound softened only by the undeniable truth in her judgment. Privately, Charles asked to read the letter again. Alone, he studied it once, then again. When he finally returned it to Anne, those nearby swore they saw his eyes glisten. "She always saw farther than the rest of us," he muttered. Yet beyond that room, the palace was unsettled. Senior advisers were stunned. Some questioned the authenticity of the letter. Others speculated about what precedent it might set, what it meant for hierarchy, for Camilla's role, for the monarchy's very structure. Would Catherine now step into an unofficial leadership role? Would she begin shaping strategy behind the crown? One aide summed up the mood. It was tense, but it also felt inevitable. Catherine has always been admired, but no one expected this moment to arrive so soon. Reports suggest that Camilla was blindsided. Though she offered no public objection, sources say she quietly canceled 2 engagements the following week, citing health and personal reflection. Privately, she was said to be hurt and unsettled. Having long accepted that Diana's shadow would always loom over her, watching Kate rise with Elizabeth's blessing felt like history repeating itself. William remained silent. He gave no interviews, issued no comments, and made no acknowledgement of the letter. Yet those closest to him say he was deeply moved, fully aware of the extraordinary weight that had just shifted onto his wife's shoulders. Anne, characteristically pragmatic, stood by her decision to reveal the letter. "The Queen asked me to keep it," she reportedly told a trusted aide. "She never asked me to keep it forever." Her decision has since been praised as a decisive, steadying act, one that ensured Elizabeth's intentions would not be buried with her. Beyond palace walls, whispers began to spread. Reporters picked up on unusual cancellations, sudden private meetings, and unexplained changes in the Wales's schedule. Staffers traded stories of a hidden power shift. The tabloids seized on the rumors, but the palace refused to confirm or deny anything. Still, inside the royal circle, one reality became undeniable. The monarchy had shifted, not in title, not in regalia, but in weight. Where power once passed formally from throne to heir, it now pulsed through something less tangible, a private letter and the woman chosen to embody it. Elizabeth was gone, but her decision lived on, reshaping the monarchy in silence. Catherine, long known for her restraint, her careful smile, and her ability to step back when tradition demanded, began to change. The transformation wasn't dramatic, but it was unmistakable. She began appearing more often, not only at community visits and children's charities, but at strategy sessions, Commonwealth gatherings, and discreet meetings with world leaders. Her voice, once seen as purely supportive, began to influence decisions. Her presence carried new authority. She went from being part of the discussion to leading it, one aide observed. This was no act of ambition. It was Catherine rising to the task set before her. Those close to her recall that she wept when the Queen's words were first read, not in fear, but in reverence. The weight of the moment struck her deeply. She always felt the duty, a friend reflected. Now she carries the legacy. Her composure in public subtly shifted. She walked with the assurance of someone who no longer had to prove her place, but instead had to define it. She took on more complex causes, speaking with a conviction that made it clear Catherine was already stepping into a role that went far beyond her title. She expanded her early childhood initiative beyond Britain, taking it onto the world stage. Her calendar began filling with meetings alongside foreign leaders as she helped prepare for the delicate future of the Commonwealth. One staff member summed it up bluntly. She's no longer performing, she's leading. Yet privately, she remained deeply aware of the weight of her position. In the quiet of Adelaide Cottage, her retreat on the Windsor estate, she often surrounded herself with two personal treasures: a faded photograph of her first solo engagement with the Queen and the lily-of-the-valley brooch Elizabeth entrusted to her during the secret ritual. Those close to her say these objects serve as her compass, even though she has never spoken publicly about the letter. Her language has shifted. She no longer frames her role as simply supporting William. Instead, she talks of guiding the crown itself, protecting the institution from within. Senior staff now routinely seek her input before finalizing decisions on public appearances, charitable initiatives, or even diplomatic events. She has quietly begun mentoring Princess Charlotte and Lady Louise Windsor, sharpening speeches and selecting her attire with deliberate symbolism that nods to Elizabeth and Diana without imitating either. "She isn't trying to become them," observed one longtime watcher. "She's becoming herself, and that's exactly what the Queen always saw in her." William, for his part, has embraced the change with ease. Their public unity remains unshaken, while behind closed doors, Charles has described her as the heart of it all, recognizing that his mother's instincts for Catherine aligned with his own hopes for the monarchy's survival. The extraordinary thing isn't that Kate was chosen. It's how naturally she inhabits the role, as though it had been waiting for her long before she ever walked into the palace. She doesn't rule, not officially. She doesn't reign, not yet. And still, she leads. With Elizabeth's unseen hand guiding her, she has become more than a princess consort. She is the calm at the monarchy's center, the quiet force carrying its heartbeat forward. What unfolded behind the sealed doors of Windsor Castle wasn't just a ritual. It was the beginning of a transfer of power, a soft succession. No abdication, no constitutional upheaval, but a gradual rebalancing of influence, authority, and trust. The monarchy is already shifting into a form it has never taken before. For centuries, power passed rigidly along established lines: king to heir, queen to consort, palace to parliament. But in an age defined by media glare, public doubt, and generational change, Elizabeth foresaw that survival depended not on tradition alone, but on relevance. Her decision to quietly appoint Catherine as the monarchy's moral center was less about breaking rules than preserving the crown's future. The results are already visible. Catherine now advises on areas far beyond her original brief: international relations, state strategy, even family unity. A senior courtier put it plainly. The monarchy is consolidating, narrowing to a core of Charles, William, and Catherine. William remains the heir, but Catherine is increasingly seen as the heir to Elizabeth's legacy. With Camilla stepping back under the strain of scrutiny and Charles absorbed in both health and duty, Kate has emerged as the steadying figure, the one able to connect tradition with modernity, formality with warmth, hierarchy with humanity. And beyond palace walls, the change is registering. A younger public, long skeptical of the crown, has begun to see in her a more relatable figure, noble but approachable, empathetic without indulgence. For an institution fighting to stay relevant, That matters more than any title. Even those inside now concede what Elizabeth likely always knew. Catherine isn't just bridging the gap between eras. She is the anchor, the one who will hold the monarchy together through turbulence, change, and uncertainty. There is doubt, of course, and resistance among some. But the quiet revolution has already begun. The momentum is undeniable. Elizabeth's final words didn't install a queen in the legal sense. They signaled the birth of a new kind of monarchy, one defined not by pageantry but by service, not by tradition but by trust, and carried forward by a woman who never sought a crown yet now shapes its future. From that moment onward, authority has flowed less through rules and more through belief. And right now, the person the public believes in is Catherine. With sapphire earrings at her side, she walks with calm strength, carrying a responsibility that only those closest to her can truly see. The quiet revolution is already underway. The monarchy has always existed on the knife's edge between continuity and change, built on law, lineage, and spectacle. Yet what happened in Windsor's inner rooms, the reading of Elizabeth's secret decree, shifted everything. It was not a rebellion, but a realignment. For the first time in generations, character and trust, not blood, became the monarchy's compass. In a world of relentless media scrutiny and diminishing deference, public confidence now matters more than any hereditary claim. Elizabeth foresaw this. Her private letter was less a farewell than a calculated move to secure the crown's relevance. By naming Catherine as the monarchy's moral center, she positioned her as the matriarch of its future. The effects are already clear. Catherine's role within the palace has expanded. She is sought out for her judgment, her approval carries weight, and her silences resonate more strongly than public statements. With Harry and Meghan gone, Andrew disgraced, and lesser royals fading from public view, the institution is narrowing its focus. The core is now 3, Charles, William, and Catherine. But within that trio, it is Catherine who directs the narrative. The public sees it too. Younger generations, once skeptical of monarchy, now find something genuine in her. Her illness, her recovery, and her composed resilience have given her a kind of authority that no title can bestow. She doesn't feel like an institution. She feels like a leader. Not all within the family welcome the shift. Some view it as an erosion of hierarchy, others as the monarchy's only lifeline. But as one insider put it, the crown isn't being handed over. It's being protected by the only one strong enough to carry it. Catherine may never wear the crown formally. She may never hold the orb or sit alone on the throne. Yet she is already steering the monarchy, not by decree but by presence. The institution's survival in the 21st century may rest on that subtle but monumental shift. Where some feared the monarchy would weaken after Elizabeth's death, the reality is that she had already secured its future. She entrusted it to Catherine, the so-called commoner who has become the model of modern royalty, steady, empathetic, unshakable. Her ascension hasn't been loud, but it has been unmistakable. Each step, each speech, each carefully chosen gesture deepens the trust she holds with the public. And in that trust lies her true power. Behind closed doors, she is already shaping the monarchy, supporting Charles through frailty, advising William as heir, and anchoring the family in turbulent times. Not with grandeur, but with quiet conviction. That is the brilliance of her reign. It requires no proclamation. She leads without needing to declare it. She carries the crown without wearing it. Elizabeth saw it. Anne confirmed it. And slowly, the world is realizing it too. Catherine has become more than the Princess of Wales. She is the unseen architect of the monarchy's next chapter, the bridge between its past and its survival. She did not rise by ambition, but by trust. And in that trust, royalty itself is being remade. The crown's new era has already begun, and its center is Catherine.